Time for a little Saturday poetry roulette. If you haven't heard me talk about this before, the first way that I really began channeling was with poetry, both writing it and reading it. So I have a ton of poetry books in my Kindle, and I do this thing called poetry roulette where I go to a random book, I select a book, and then I see what cards come out with it. Similarly to the other stuff that we do for the blueprint. My cat's trying to come in. But this is like my OG way of interpreting messages in the way that I do now with the blueprint mind computer, but like this was the makeup of it, the foundation of it, the initial understanding I had to build on. This was like the seed, right? So like I focused on this seed, what is happening here, because I started going back and forth with like the poetry and the cards and the channels that I was getting and everything, and I started saying, what am I looking at here? And then how can I understand this? How can I master this? How can I teach this? And how can I create a physical version of this? So it really began with poetry and my love of reading. So let's do poetry roulette. I have a bunch of different poetry playlists in my Kindle that I'm working right now on combining into like less of them, but this is one that I read a specific amount of time ago, so we're just gonna kind of go. Let's hear. Spy. One second, it's downloading. Okay, so this is the cover. It's the front of a airplane or jet or helicopter. I'm gonna go to a random location in the book. Never elected at all. Narrow scope of vision. Poisoned by suspicion. Never elect. Let me see if this poem has a name. Let me go back one page. No, okay. Never elected at all. Narrow scope of vision. Poisoned by suspicion. Five of Wands. A battle you didn't choose. Never elected at all. A battle you didn't choose. Narrow scope of vision that you didn't see coming. Poisoned by suspicion. You didn't want to believe it until it got so overwhelmingly obvious that you had no other choice but to believe it. So a battle you didn't choose / did not deserve, like it's not the consequence of something you did. A battle that you didn't see until you were in it and it was unfolding, and you didn't want to believe it until you had to. Only ones allowed to make a decision. As the eye and the pie in the sky were circling us from the air, we knew the line. Only ones allowed to make a decision as the eye and the pie in the sky. Page of Wands in reverse. Something bigger than you was blocking your path, and it wasn't something that was easily in your grip to quickly change. A bigger hand at play blocking your path because of this battle that was not your fault, that you didn't see till you were in it, that you didn't want to believe until you had to. And there was a hand at play bigger than you that was blocking your path forward. Were circling us from the air. We knew the line. Knight of Pentacles. Were circling us from the air. We knew the line. The line was to stay in alignment with self. No matter how much they circled you in the air, if you stayed in alignment with self, you were going to get through this battle that you didn't choose, that you didn't see coming until you were in it, that you didn't want to believe that someone or a force bigger than you or with more power than you was purposefully blocking your path. And to alleviate or remove the block, you had to stay in alignment with self through the obstacle course. For it too was written from the sky, told us what to do every day in every way. Knight of Wands in reverse. Shield in reverse. For it to have written from the sky, told us what to do every day in every way. But that didn't allow you to be in your passion and your purpose. Told you what to do. You were willing to see this battle through to the end because you refused to know that your purpose existed, but not fight to be able to achieve it. And you recognize that the only way to get the hand that was blocking the path out of the way was to complete the battle that you did not choose, but it drew you into. How to live. Okay, so it tells us what to do every day in every way, how to live and when to die and what to say on the way, manufacturing consent day by day. The sun in reverse. So interestingly enough, the sun is a yes card in both directions, but in reverse, it's like the yes that you didn't choose, so the manufactured consent. If this reading is for you, show me a clear and concise card that shows you played along, you played dumb, you played acting like you didn't know what was going on until you got to the other side of the battle. It's like you looked like you were allowing for this manufactured consent as you worked on creating and implementing a plan to get out of the trap that it looked like you were in when there was a hand bigger than you blocking your path. And you knew to complete the battle that you did not choose and woke up inside of one day, essentially. You knew that to complete that, you were going to have to look like you were giving up, it feels, or look like you were flying under the radar until you were ready for takeoff at the end. Temperance in reverse. Imbalance until takeoff. It's like the pouring in from the higher into the lower until the lower has enough to shoot back up. Knight of Cups on the other side. How to live and when to die and what to say on the way. Manufacturing consent day by day. You played along and dimmed your light, but it didn't mean the light went away. If this is for you, the battle that you were in was essentially a tunnel. And it may have looked on the surface like your light had gone out or your light was dim or unseeable because you were in the tunnel. What happens when you come out the other side? Ace of Cups. That is what happens.